Welcome to the Private Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storm, here to help you unlock the mind, business, and spirit of your private practice success. So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to grow, this is the place for you if you really want to create a thriving private practice. Before we dive in, I want to share something that can really make a difference in your business. Imagine having an expert in your pocket, someone available on demand whenever you need guidance. Well, that's exactly what my new program, Practice Momentum, offers. With over 30 years of experience at your fingertips, you can now get the support you need whenever you need it. Curious? Head over to brooklynstorm.com to learn more. And now let's get into today's episode.
Hi, my name's Michelle, and I joined Practice Momentum back in March of this year. I'm just at the dog park, full disclosure, so you may hear my dogs contributing in the background. But I really want to just jump on and say that Practice Momentum has changed a lot for me. I was looking for business coaching for a while. I looked around and people just weren't quite the right fit. And without even realizing it, Brooklyn had what I needed, which was somebody who has a different model of delivery and business. So what she offers is, pretty much immediate support, which for me worked a lot better in terms of business coaching, because I found that the things that I was grappling with and struggling with, like social media, marketing, writing my website, knowing what copy to write for my website, how to get clients, all of that stuff wouldn't necessarily be conducive to do or as helpful to do in just a once a month, 1 hour format. So that was huge. She's also a straight shooter. She's been doing this for 30 years. She really knows her stuff, really authentic and transparent about what she can offer you and what she can't offer you as well. That's really clear. So I know where my boundaries are. I know where I stand. And then the other thing I would say is that she really goes above and beyond, right? That sounds kind of generic when I say it, but I really mean it. Like, she's always offering little extra bonuses, and she has a portal that we can go back and access at any time that we need. So far, those would be the things that I would say. And then in terms of my business, I mean, I only started in February, but I feel really supported. I feel a sense of community that, particularly in private practice, sometimes all these things can just be echoing around in your head and you're not quite sure where to go, but this is a really central focus point for that. And, my website looks beautiful. She did a really great website review and helped to work on the copy for that. It now sounds and feels far more like me, and I'm much clearer on what type of clients I want, but also not only that, how to get them. She doesn't overpromise and underdeliver. That was another thing that I found with some other business coaching experiences or people that I saw, that it was like really, really a lot of money, and maybe they didn't even have experience in private practice, or maybe, they weren't as available as what you need, I think, when you are growing the business. And, I am only, almost 4 or 5 months into the program, and I'm seeing some definite results, and we'll keep speaking to that as I, get better at tracking my numbers. But honestly, quite authentically, I wouldn't do something like this and recommend it unless I really meant it and believed in it. So anyone who's thinking of joining, Brooklyn doesn't push the hard sell on it. She knows that what she has to offer, I believe, is good. And she really is passionate about working with women in business. So if you're thinking about it, book in a call with her, or look at some of her podcasts. That's how I started. I just really liked her personality. I thought she was funny but knowledgeable, down to earth. So, I think the next step for you, if you're not sure, would just be sussing out, all your questions with her and getting in touch with her. And I'm always happy to chat about what I found really helpful so far about the program. So thank you so much. And looking forward to chatting with anyone soon if they want to reach out.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice Podcast. I wanted to sing something for you before we get started, because it's just in my head and I really love it so much. And if it's in the Creative Commons and I can use it, I might even use it for the start of my podcast. So maybe you know it. If you know it, sing along. But I love it because it's like such a vibe, and it's like, oh, it's so much fun. And it's really short, and it just goes. It might even be a jingle, not a song. I don't know. But it goes. Hang on. My earpods have just made a strange noise. That's not how it goes, but it goes like this. It's a lovely day today, and whatever you've got to do, it would be lovely to be doing it with you. So if you've got something that must be done, and it can only be done by one, then there's nothing more to say, except it's a lovely day for saying it's a lovely day. Don't you love that? It is the best. I'm loving it. And I'm driving through the country. Yes, I am. Well, country-ish, let's just say. I just dropped Buddy off at doggy daycare. Well, we call it school. It's not really, but they do enrichment stuff. So kind of it is, but isn't. And I am on my weekly pilgrimage down to Phillip Island. I have got the best book. I cannot wait to read it. But I've also bought my journal and a pen because, this is where I get all of my inspiration. Speaking of, I'll tell you about something else in a minute. And, the book is actually, it's gorgeous. I would call it, it's a book, but you could put it on the coffee table and call it a coffee table book. But it was not something I've ever seen before. It's a really sort of large book, almost like the size of a poster, and it's by Alana Fairchild. And I'll get the actual name for you and put it in the show notes. But it's about incantations. Sorry. So I had a bit of a flip through it. Yes, I did get it from Dalesford when I was there. 5 or 6 weeks ago. I'm there again in like another 3 weeks. I cannot wait. But anyway, I'm so excited to just sit and read it because it's a kind of book where, you've got to be in the mood for it. You can't just sort of do it in the middle of the day. And sometimes at night, Buddy gets really thingy if we're trying to have a little bit of a cuddle on the couch and I even go on my phone, he gets the, WhatsApp. He really doesn't like that. So I, have to put my phone face down and try really hard not to look at my phone because it offends him. For those of you who don't know, my 2-year-old Cavi Cross Maltese, actually, his name's Buddy. That's what I'm talking about. So, yeah. Anywho, he's like, this is our time and you're like ruining it by, being on your phone. Okay. So, anywho. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say too is this morning before I started work, I am going to get to the podcast episode, don't worry, and it's going to be a good one. But the other thing too was yesterday somebody booked in for a website wellness check and I did it and I wanted to do it this morning because, it's Friday morning and I was thinking, I've got 48 hours. So really I could do it like today, which I didn't want to because it's my day off, or I could do it Monday. But then I thought if I wait until Monday, what if she wants to work on it on the weekend? Like I don't want to leave her hanging. So this morning I just did it over breakfast and got it off to her. But I had a bolt of inspiration while I was doing it, and you know how like when you have that inspiration, it just sets you up for the for the morning or for the rest of the day. So now I just feel like totally inspired, and it's like, I want to go away and have this drive right now to relax and everything, but at the same time I'm like feeling very energized. But okay, let me sort of like calm down. All right, so today's topic is about the story that you might be telling yourself. And I know it happens for a lot of people. And look, maybe it just happens for my people because I specialize in helping people that struggle with this, right? There are obviously people out there that don't, and that's totally fine. But my thing is, for the most part, I like to help the people who are struggling to get clients and to, generate revenue for their practices. So I do hear this a lot. And it's about, running a story that people can't afford your services. And yeah, I guess what I want to say to that is a couple of things. First off, it may be true for some people, but by and large, it's not. So if you think about the bell-shaped curve, so those of you who did statistics, you'll remember the normal distribution curve. For those of you who didn't, you dodged bullets, not having to learn about all of this stuff. But you might imagine it as a piece of paper with a horizontal line, and then above the horizontal line, there's a picture of a hill. So just like a great big arc, and either side of the arc, the sort of tails that come off. But the hill and the tails don't actually ever touch the horizontal line. So anyway, that is a picture in your mind's eye of what's called the bell-shaped curve or normal distribution curve. And basically, it's a mathematical concept, but, I want to apply it to real life here. And basically what it says is that, there's groups of predictable actions, behaviors, demographics, populations, all of the things that you can interpret through this very simple, basic picture. In terms of can people afford the services, it's saying that people on the left-hand side, where that tail is, so not the big hump, not the big part of the hill, but where the little tail is, that represents, maybe 5 to, 12%, if you're lucky, of people. That's on the left-hand side, and that's like the negative side, right? The negative side. The mirror is on the right-hand side. That's a positive side. And then you've got the hump, right? The everybody under the great big hill, right? Everyone under that great big hill is, the average or some kind of variation on the average. So when we're using this to look at can people afford my fees, the reality is there are going to be some people that can't afford your fees. No matter what the fee is, they will still not be able to afford it. You might charge $50 and they can't afford it. You might charge $10 and they can't afford it. You might charge $1 and they can't afford it. They will, however much you charge is by the by. It doesn't matter. There will always be, statistically, scientifically, you cannot get a price point low enough where people will be able to access it. There's always going to be that 5 to 12% that can't. At the same time, most people, i.e. everybody under the hill, can, right? You're going to have, if you divide that hill with a vertical line right down the middle, like split it down the middle, you're going to have, like, at the peak of the hill, in that column there, you're going to have, like, most people. And that's most people can, right? On average, most people can find the money, can afford it, right? If you look to the left and you start to see the hill starts to taper down, you will see that we go from most people can to, we're now starting to see that some people can afford the range of the fee, but it might be a little bit lower in the range. And then if we look at the right-hand side, we can see that, yes, people can still, on average, they can afford your fee no matter what it is. And there's going to be people, so on the right-hand side, as the hill starts to taper down and things like that, we see that what they can afford increases, right? There's less and less people that can afford more and more and more. So I hope that makes sense. So the point I'm trying to make is don't set your fee based on what you think people can and can't afford, because there are always, scientifically, statistically, evidentially, there's always going to be people on both sides that can afford what you're charging and so much more, and they pay it, no problem. There's also going to be people that can't, right? No problem. The thing is that when it comes to setting the fee, what I believe in my 30 years of experience, and I have a great business financially, it does super well, and I don't work that much in terms of like direct client work. And my fees are determined by the value I provide, not by what I think people can afford. What I want to say to you is a few things. There are three aspects to setting your fee. So my philosophy, what makes me different as a private practice coach, is I really believe in mind, business, spirit, right? I believe that in order for you to have the type of business that gives you the things that you really want, so the ability to help people and the ability to pay yourself, go on a holiday, get a new laptop, take time off when you're sick and not stressed that you're not earning income, right? You're worried about paying the bills. I believe it takes all three of those components. So let me go through each of them, because maybe one of them will resonate, or maybe two, or maybe all of them, right? So I think a lot of business coaches just focus on the tactical business strategy stuff. So let's start there. If you want to increase your fees, right? You want to increase your turnover, all that kind of stuff, go for it. Setting your fee in terms of the strategy is going to be determined by what the business needs you to be charging. You have to start separating yourself from the business. And that's a challenge for many of us because we're in solo private practice. We see the business as an extension of ourselves. I'm not saying that it can't be, it absolutely can be, but you need to be able to switch between approaching it from the space of a business and making decisions for the business, as well as for clients and for you. So the business strategy, the tactical side of it is you need to understand what the business has to charge you out as, in order for it to be able to do the things that it needs to do. So the business needs to pay the rent. The business needs to pay the phone and internet. The business needs to pay for your business cards, right? Your website hosting, like all the things, your insurances, your memberships, any PD that you're doing, your supervision, all those kinds of things. So this is why it's very important that you know your numbers. And even if you're right at the very early stages, and you're planning your private practice, right? So maybe you haven't even started yet. You might be thinking, oh, that's going to work for people who've been in it for a while, but what about me? So for what about you? Do your research. Put together a projection, right? Doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to use Excel or anything like that. You can do it in an exercise book, totally up to you, but do a projection. And all that looks like is making a big list of all the things that are going to cost money. Like we were saying before, business cards, your website hosting, if you're getting your domain, if you're buying essential forms for private practice, all of those kinds of things. Make a list of all the expenses, be honest about what they are, and then add them up and divide them by 12. And that's going to give you a very loose, it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. It won't be perfect until you've been in business for probably 24 or 36 months. Up until that point, it's very dynamic and it's shifting all the time. But you need to have a starting point. Do that, divide it by 12, understand it's only general and it's going to change. And then figure out, like, how much do you want to be taking home? Add 30% to that. Again, this is just very general, and this is for solo private practices. This is the very basic way. There are lots of ways to calculate a fee, but this is the simple, easy way. Figure out what you want to take home in your pocket for the year. Add 30%. Divide that by the number of weeks you want to work, which is different for everyone, but in general, it's usually 48 or 46. And then divide that by the number of sessions that you want to do. And then you've got your session fee, right? Ideally, your session fee, if you're a counsellor, is going to be minimum starting point, first year out, even with a diploma, 150 or 160 for a standard 50 to 60-minute consultation, right? If it's not there, we need to have a conversation because there's probably other things coming up. But we're just looking at the strategy now. Strategy doesn't have emotion. Strategy is just tactics. So we're just looking at that. That is the tactic for how you set your fee. Now, did you hear me say anything there about, first of all, go and find out what everybody in your area is charging? No, because that is not a strategy. It's not because you have no information to hand about how that counsellor or social worker or psychologist or play therapist or OT or speechy, you have no idea what was going through their head when they chose their fees. And after working with so many of you for such a long time, I know that it's not uncommon for women to struggle with the money. So if you're looking around at what other women who struggle with money are charging and you think that's what you need to charge too, it's a flawed approach to your business. It's never going to work for you. Stop it. Go and figure out your numbers. If you need help, let me know. I'm absolutely happy to help you figure out what the right session fee for you should be from a business strategy perspective. As I said, there are other ways you can work out the fee, but that's pretty much it. Okay. So when we're looking at fees, we've got mind, business, strategy, mind, business, spirit. Business strategy is one thing. So that's a strategy that you can use. Another strategy that you can use to determine your session fee is to look at your average session fee, right? The desired average session fee. And the way that you do that is you look at all the different services that you're wanting to provide or that you do provide. You add up roughly in the last 12 months how many of those sessions you did and you divide it. And another way is you can say, well, I do work cover over here and I get 160 for work cover. I do NDIS over here, I get 193 for that session. I do private, I get 120. I do EAP, I get 70, right? Add up the different categories of session fee, divide them by the number of categories you've got, and that'll also give you an idea of what your current session fee is. If it's not minimum 150 or 160, we need to talk. But these formulas that I'm giving you are very, very helpful in terms of giving you insight and awareness and understanding as to what might be going on with the business, right? The other thing too is when it comes to business strategy, if you wanted to take it a little bit further with your fees, you could look at making sure this is something everybody skips. I am yet to find a private practice that included this from day one, and that is line items in the budget for superannuation, for PD, for, all those kinds of things. They have it in the P&L at the end of their first financial year in business, but there's no budget for it. And so, when you want to go and do something, it always feels like an expense, and it often feels like you're having to take it out of your savings. So go and figure out a budget that you want to use for things like your insurance, your professional development, all those kinds of things. Go and figure that out and then redo those calculations and you'll land on the right session fee for you. Okay. So there are some strategies around how to identify the session fee. Remember that if we have that picture of the hill, remember at any given time, there's only 10 or 12% of the population that can't afford it, which means 88% can, right? Evidence, proof, validated, reliable, take it to the bank. 88% can always afford your fee. Okay, the next one is mind. So mind, business, spirit. So mind is about your beliefs. it's about you projecting your BS stories onto the business and, without even being aware of it, putting your money stories onto your clients who didn't ask for it. It's like, I don't know, probably how some people feel with me when like there was somebody yesterday that she sent me a message and she was saying that she wants to increase some passive income for her practice, and she was we'll go back and forth on Messenger, and then she was saying to me she was looking at doing either a course or membership. And, my instinct was to write back about, my insights and, give her some guidance and stuff like that. And then my higher self said, Brooklyn, she didn't ask for your unsolicited advice, just zip it. So, yeah, it's kind of like that. That would have been me just like putting my stuff onto her. When you have your own beliefs about the money, you're projecting that onto your clients. It's not fair. They didn't ask to have your money issues dumped on them. They've got enough that they're trying to deal with. And by you saying, oh, well, I'm just doing it to be affordable, you and I both know that's not true. That's a defense mechanism that you've got, your ego trying to play it safe so that you don't get rejected. And, it's normal and it's common. This happens to so many women, but you can turn it around. You've just got to be honest with yourself. The real reason that you're undercharging is not because you want to be affordable. You're doing it because you're worried that if you charge the national average, that people won't book, and you're going to make that mean something about you. And in the absence of not knowing why they're not booking, you're going to assume it's because of the money. But I'm here to tell you the statistics don't lie. 88% can afford you. It's not the fee that's stopping people booking you. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the reason that they're not booking in is because they don't want what you're putting out, basically. They're not interested. Either they don't know what you're selling them, or they don't want what you're selling them. And that happens because of a few reasons. Either you don't know your market, you don't know your client, you think that you know your client, but what's happening is, your audience is saying, actually, you don't, because if you did, we would be, queuing up at the door, like when Apple brings out a new iPhone, people camp out in the streets, they'd be doing that if they wanted what you're selling, right? It's why we have wait lists and things like that. You don't have that, it means that, yeah, they don't want it. And it's not a reflection of you as a person. It's not because they don't think that you're not good at what you do. It's nothing to do with that. It's because they don't see any value in what you're offering. That happens when you are a generalist practice. And by that, I mean, there's nothing making you stand out. So let's not confuse what generalist means. And let's not confuse what niche means. Let me clarify it for you. There are people who have a generalist practice and are very successful. They're successful for a few reasons. Either there's low competition in their area, or they might be general in terms of they work with all the ages, with all of the things, which I would never recommend, by the way, because I think that that's unethical, because there's no way you could be competent in everything. But they accept referrals from everywhere. They work with all of the people, with all of the things. But so they're generalist in that sense. But they're niched in terms of they've got a specific type of approach they use, right? Maybe it's rapid resolution therapy. Maybe it's hypnotherapy. Maybe it's, something. But they work with a broad range of people. So yes, generalist in that sense, but niched in terms of the way that they work. So they've become the go-to practice for, what did I say? Hypnotherapy. Or they've become the go-to practice for rapid resolution therapy and things like that, right? So yes, that's not a generalist practice, but some people refer to themselves as generalists because they work with everyone. That's not it. Generalist means there's an absence of anything that would make you the go-to practice. So a generalist practice is one that isn't known for anything. They're just kind of there, and they're saying, yeah, I'll take you. I don't mind if you're 2 years old or 96 years old. I'll take you. I don't mind if you've got ADD or depression or anxiety or grief or trauma. Yeah, I'll take you. I don't mind if you want CBT or ACT or this or that, right? That's a generalist practice. Yeah, I'll take you if you want someone to walk beside you on your healing journey through your life transitions. That's a generalist practice. They're the ones that struggle. They're the ones that are sitting there saying, I don't get it, Brooklyn. Like, I couldn't be more available to help people. I'm not excluding anybody. I've even got all the flags on my website. I've even got the welcome to country and this, that, and the other. Like, I don't know how more inclusive and welcoming and open I could be, but they're just not coming. They're not coming because you're just like invisible. You're watered down. They don't know what you do. So that happens because usually either you don't understand what niching is or you've got some beliefs around it. But the mindset is that you're assuming that the reason they're not booking is because of the money. It's not. The reason they're not booking is because they don't see the value. The reason they're not seeing the value is because you're not telling them you've got something that solves the problem they've got. The reason you're not saying you've got something that solves the problem they've got is because you're either acting from scarcity mindset, fear mindset, desperation, or you just don't know your audience well enough. So you have to have a solution to the thing that's a problem for them, right? I'm just trying to think of an example from other private practices, but I don't want to like speak about other women's businesses without their permission and stuff like that. So I don't know. With me, for example, right, with Practice Momentum, I'll just use that. With that, I knew that there were women who wanted to get help from me to get their practice going, right? They needed a lot of help, a lot of support. They didn't need a course. They didn't need a membership. They didn't need a subscription. They were in a position where they don't know why it's not working. They have run out of things to try. They're on the brink of burnout. They're on the brink of maybe just going back to a paid job or going and working for somebody else's private practice. Usually that's the case, right? Not always. I've got people in Momentum that aren't in that, but probably about 70% of them are, or were, I should say. So I knew when I was first putting this together, from my experience offering business consulting and coaching to women in private practice in the past, that 9 times out of 10, the reason that they didn't end up working with me was because they were either time poor, so they were mums, they had family commitments, and they were working full time, and they were trying to do the business after the little ones went down to bed at night or on a Saturday morning, right? So the business was like kind of a side hustle. They were trying to do it in their spare time. So while they knew that it wasn't working, and while they knew they needed help, and while they knew they wanted that help from me, they believed that despite all of this, there was just no way they could because they didn't have time. That was my first realization. The second realization that I had was there was another group of people, same sort of context, but it wasn't full-time work, it was full-time study. So they were either doing diplomas full-time, batch, post-grad dips, masters, all of that. They were doing that, and they had a plan that they were going to open a private practice once they finished. And they knew that the best way to do that was to get support learning how to set it up, so that when they finished their qualification and they got their degree or their piece of paper, their diploma, whatever, that then they would be able to start the business and there'd be clients in the diary. So they knew that they wanted to do all of that, but they were saying to me, I can't because I'm studying full time. I know I want to do this. I know I need this. I don't want to finish my study and then spend, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months with you learning how to start a private practice, because I'm going to have a gap of nothing really happening, while we're doing that. I don't want that. I want to just finish and then boom, go and open my business. But I need to know how to do it. Yeah, I don't have time around my study. So yeah, that's my situation. So those were two of the big things. And then the third thing that came up a lot was they knew that they were really busy. They knew that they needed help, but it was expensive, right? Just not in the budget. Because they didn't have clients coming in to create the cash flow that they needed to be able to pay for help. So they're in like a catch-22. It's like chicken or the egg. I need the clients to get the help, but I need the help to get the clients. And now I'm in circular logic and I'm just not going to do anything. And that's what they did. They did nothing. And as a result, some businesses closed. Others came back to me and said, I don't know what to do anymore. Others went and looked at, what other free stuff can I get? And they did things like, in some states you can go and get like a little bit of business consulting or business coaching. I think it's a few hours. It depends on which state you're in. Some it's 3, some it's like 5. I think one state might have 6. They do things like, it's different everywhere, but one of them it's like for your marketing, or one of them it's for digital stuff, right? So some of them went and did that, and it just turned into a bloody nightmare, because the stuff that they were learning and doing was not relevant, or it didn't work, or it didn't meet the ethical codes of conduct, or it didn't work for our industry. And the reason, they went and did it because they wanted help, but at the same time didn't realize that the help that they were getting was very broad, very general, from people that didn't have industry specific knowledge. So it ended up causing all these headaches. People had to like redo their websites. It was just, a nightmare. Or they were told, for the marketing and about how to get clients, they were told all these, strategies. They're just like, I don't know, things like go and befriend 100 people a day on Facebook and then send them all a message on Messenger introducing yourself and, pitch your service and stuff like we just don't do that as therapists. We don't. And so, it was a total time suck. It smashed their confidence. It made them think like, this is never going to work for me and all that kind of stuff. So, So I knew those were the 3 problems that my ideal clients were facing. So I knew I still wanted to help them using business consulting and business coaching, because what I do. But I knew that I had to present it and package it up in a way that was going to solve the problems, which meant I had to go away and think about, okay, how do I still get them this solution, right? The solution of getting clients, the solution of getting money, the solution of financial security, bearing in mind they don't have time because they're working full time and the business is a side hustle, or they're studying full time and, it's hard for them to try and juggle this on top of study, or they're happy to try and find the time, but they just can't get started because of the situation they're in, the chicken or the egg, right? How can I break that chicken or the egg for them so that they can actually get help without delay? So once I identified the problems, then I figured out a solution, and that was a big part of why momentum is the way that it is. So momentum now has been created to solve the problems, not only of the private practice, but the problems that people were having starting in private practice momentum. The problem that people were having getting into the program. So, the solution looked like for me, and I'm just sharing this with you so that you see the process, right? But for me, once I identified the problem, then I figured out the solution. What it looks like now is we don't do 1 hour calls once a week. No, I know they don't have time for that. So what we do is we have flexible coaching, mentoring, business strategy, stuff like that. It's entirely flexible. I know they probably can't commit to regular times for regular things. So again, it's all totally flexible. I know they do better when they're on the fly and, they need help in the moment. So it's help in the moment. I know that they know they need help, but I also know the chicken or the egg. And so I reduced the payment plan for them. Well, I created one and then I reduced it, I halved it, and then I halved it again, so that it's manageable. And I know that 88% of them can manage this, not a problem. But it's a low enough point in terms of their business cash flow to allow them to get the help they need for a period of time, like 6 months or whatever, so that they can get the help that they need. And by the end of that 6 months, when they're on that reduced payment plan, they will have clients in the diary. They will have increased their income. They will have created the cash flow. Their nervous system is regulated. They're not, pooping themselves every time they get an invoice, right? They're like, oh, invoice, no big deal. The money's there to pay it, right? They've got all of that. So my program, while my program solves the big issue for them of getting clients and money, it specifically also solves the problems for them getting started. And I can do that because I know my audience, right? I can do that because I know my audience. So this is what I'm saying. If people aren't booking in with you, it's because you don't know your audience. You've got to listen to the problem that they're having with the thing that they've got and sell them the solution. People pay for solutions. They're not paying for ACT, right? They're not. They're not paying for self-care. They're not. They're saying, help me stop yelling at my children. How do I stop yelling at my children? So you've got to go, how can I help this neurodivergent mother who's got neurodivergent children stop shouting at her kids? You're not going to be talking about your self-care or your ACT, right? And then when you sell it to her, you're going to be saying, mums, if you're neurodivergent and you've got neurodivergent children and you're feeling horrible about yourself because you shout at them and you want to stop doing that, I've got this for you. Here's what it is. Do you know what? They're going to pay for that rather than you just saying, I help you with your life transitions and I'm going to hold a safe space and walk beside you and stuff like that. Do you see the difference? The value is not determined by you. The value is not determined by the dollar amount you put on it. The value is determined solely and wholly by the client and what they're willing to pay to get that solution. Okay. So anyway, I hope that helps, because I really want it to be able to help you. I really want this to be useful for you. What else did I want to say about mindset there? Yeah, the mindset is, stop assuming it's because of the fee. It's because you're not giving them what they want, and that's happening because you don't know what they want and you're not selling them what they want. This is happening because either you're not tapped in, tuned in, whatever, to your audience. And there's no way, if you're being generalist, there's no way you would ever be able to have a solution, because you can't. You'd be trying to solve all of the problems for all of the people, right? You can't. It's not possible. When you're just starting in private practice, you got to be specific. That's what a niche is, right? Makes your go-to specialist practice for something. And then the other thing, so we got mind, business, spirit. And then, yeah, when it comes to spirit, that's really, for me, a couple of things. And you might see it a little bit differently. I invite you to apply your own perspective on what spirit means for you when it comes to running a business. But I 100% believe there's a role. And I have my own evidence for me and for my clients that there's absolutely a role for spirit. But spirit, I believe, is about alignment. I believe spirit is about purpose. I believe it's about authenticity. And I also believe in spirituality, which is different from spirit in this sense. But I think there's space for it here under this umbrella. But to me, spirituality is my beliefs around the things that support me. For example, I love manifesting. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Proudly wear the badge of being a co-creator. Love it. I consume so much stuff on law of attraction, manifesting, positive psychology, all of the things, you name it, I'm there. I love cards. I love oracle cards, tarot decks, journaling, all the things. I have regular interaction, daily interaction with my higher self. I channel. I didn't realize that I was channeling until my last trip to Dalesford a few weeks ago. So I'm still sort of wrapping my head around what that means. So yeah, I feel awkward even saying that out loud because it's so new for me. But by that, I mean, like, I can write a question in my journal, and before I even finish writing the question, my hand just starts writing, scribbling across the page, giving me answers to stuff. And yeah, that's, I don't know, my higher self or source or energy or universe or whatever it is, God consciousness, I don't know. It's coming through, and then I look at it and I read it, and it's like I'm seeing it for the first time, because I'm not even present while I'm writing it. I'm just conscious of getting it out. So I do believe that there's absolutely space for spirit. But if you're not into that, I invite you to think about spirit in terms of your soul purpose, alignment. How do you know whether or not a fee is in alignment? I'll tell you. You know if a fee is in alignment if it feels good for you or not, right? If it feels good, great, go for it. If it doesn't feel good, switch it up. I really believe that feeling you have is, I think, I'm hopefully I'm not quoting the wrong person here, but I'm pretty sure it was Abraham Hicks, Esther and Jerry Hicks. But I also know Gabby Bernstein mentions it. They talk about having this internal compass, your internal guidance system, your internal GPS. And it basically says that if you're going in the right direction, everything feels fine. The minute you start to deviate and something's going off course for you, that's when it starts to feel uncomfortable, icky, yucky, wrong, unpleasant, all of the things. And that's a vibration. That's a vibration as a this is how I see it anyway, as like a notification from the universe. Just like you get a notification on your device, it's like your vibration is a notification from the universe that, hang on, no, something's off. Like, I'm just giving you a little buzz here, bzzz, to let you know something's off. And you choose to listen to that and pivot to something that brings you back into stasis and alignment, or you ignore it and you plow on anyway. It's when you ignore it and you plow on anyway that you say that you're unhappy, you don't like it. This is when you do things badly in the business. For example, maybe you raise your fees, but you do it badly. And what that looks like is you get pushback, people complain, you end up reverting to the old fee, you start giving discounts, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. See, I knew I should never have done this. So instead of you, if you were in alignment with it, you would have done it the right way. And the right way would be like you follow a process, right? A sound process that's supportive of you and your clients and your business and stuff like that. You don't just try and like close your eyes really tight, do it, and then, cover your ears and hope for the best. That doesn't work. That's what happens when you're doing things out of alignment in your business. And then the authenticity component is so big. If authenticity is important to you, and I'm not saying it should be or it has to be, you don't have to be authentic in your business. Like Rupert Murdoch, I'm sure he's not busy, focusing on his authenticity. But, for us, we kind of work in a very different space. And authenticity might be important to you, but it's probably not authentic to you if you know on the inside that it costs you this much to run the business, that you spent this much time, money, and effort attaining your qualifications, doing the unpaid placements, studying for the assignments, getting the PD, doing all of the things, having the lived experience, and you know that your service, is probably worth $300, but you're charging $80. Right? You put it on the website, you say, I'm charging $80 because, I want to help people. But on the inside, you feel sick about it and it doesn't feel fair and you hate it and you resent it and you're like, this is SH1T. Like, it's not fair. Why can't I just charge what I know I really want to charge? So that's not really you running the business from an authentic space, right? Bit different to alignment, but still very important. So I think there's absolutely a role for spirit. And when it comes to setting your fees, all three areas of those, I feel, need to be working together. They don't need to be perfect. It's not about attaining perfection or getting it right, but you need to have awareness in all three areas, because that awareness then unlocks possibility for expansion. It unlocks doors to things that are currently you're not seeing and experiences you're not having. And that's keeping you playing small, feeling like you're shrinking, dimming your light, telling yourself these stories that simply are not true. And the thing is, like, even if your experience is you are in a low socioeconomic area and your experience is case management, and you were doing that for a not-for-profit for people who were on unemployment or disability and stuff like that, like I was, right? For the longest time I was doing that. I was in a low socioeconomic area working with clients of the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence in their personal support program, who were long-term unemployed, who had all of the things, all on unemployment benefits, right? New Start, all of that, blah, blah, blah. If you're telling yourself that my experience is this, therefore, am I doomed to only ever, how am I going to get a practice off the ground if this is my experience? That's very much limiting you. And what I would suggest is surround yourself with people who are, enjoying private practice at, all different price points, doing all the different things, because you need to have exposure to see what else is around. Otherwise, you're going to be taking that past experience and using it to determine the future experience of your business. And that's not a way to run a business. The other thing that I would say too is, if you don't have experience running a private practice, right, maybe you run a hairdressing practice. Now, I'm saying this because one of my clients had this experience, right? She was like, I don't need help running a private practice. I already know how to run business. I've had a very successful mobile hairdressing business for years. Anyway, turned out she was clueless about private practice. You can't take what works in one industry and just assume it's automatically going to work in private practice. It doesn't. Totally different. So, what was I going to say? Yeah, go and learn how to actually do it. Because here's the other thing too, I think a lot of the time we fall into the trap of thinking, oh, phew, that's done. Like, finally, I've got my qualification. Now I can go and start the business. And we do it and we create it. And it's like Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, build it and they will come, and then you're sitting there in your beautiful private practice and there's nobody. And then what ends up happening is you're confused, you don't understand why, you lower your price, you try and be everything to everyone, you list yourself in all the different directories, you go on Instagram, you go on LinkedIn, you think you might have to start a YouTube or a podcast, you start a blog, and you sit in that little room all by yourself working your tail to the bone for squat. Nothing happens and nothing changes. And then probably you start to feel pretty not good about yourself and question everything and blah, blah, blah. Start withdrawing all of the things. Think it'll never work for you. Start comparing yourself to others. Start to feel resentment when they're celebrating progress that they made in their business. You're like resentful. You personalize their success as meaning something negative about you and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm here to say, it does not have to be that way. It doesn't. You can get out of this situation, and I've got a way. And yeah, the way's momentum. And it was created for you. It was not created for all the big private practices out there with the big allied health private practice teams that want to make $1 billion a year. No, it was not made for all the big group practices that have loads of team working for them. That's all about, finding levers and accelerating this and, putting the brakes on that. No, this is a way of you actually getting clients without it adding to your plate. Actually, it takes things off your plate, which feels scary because your default is to do more because you're conditioned to have an employee mindset, which basically says if you want more, you've got to do more. You've got to work overtime, stay back late, coming on the weekends. So you bring that into the business. So when I work with you and I'm helping you, one of the very first things we do is we have a not to do list, and we get rid of all the things that you're wasting precious time on, right? That aren't adding any value to the business, that will never get you a client. So yeah, it can be a little bit, uncomfortable to feel like, can I really make this work if I'm doing less? The answer is yes, you can. You just haven't known what to actually be doing and how to do it the right way. You've been guessing. You've been winging it. You've been doing the best, but not really knowing the ways. That's all it is. It's honestly that simple. It's easier than you think to get a business off the ground. The reason that you're finding it hard is because you don't know how. And so, yeah, you're trying. And I absolutely 100% hand on heart see you're trying. It's not about you being lazy or not putting in the effort or the hard work. It's not about that at all. I know that you are. You just need to understand, oh, I've got to do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. That's it. If you've got somebody that gives you those steps, and if you've got somebody that can say to you, oh, that's really interesting, what's coming up for you around charging the cancellation fee? Oh, it feels, a bit uncomfortable, like you don't want to enforce it. Interesting. Let's unpack that. And so supporting you around not only having the process to use in a really simple way, but also being okay with using it, and doing it all in a way that feels congruent with how you want to be. Because I know at the end of the day, like, it's not necessarily, oh, I want to be a business owner. It's, you probably don't even see yourself as a business owner, which is a massive part of the problem because we've got identity issues now. But I bet you probably just want somebody else to like do it all for you so that you can just be in the room with the client doing that deeper soul work. And I can get you to that place. And it doesn't matter if you've barely got any clients now. If that's you, if you've barely got any clients, you're my ideal client. You're the one for me. You're the one that I want to work with. If you've barely got any clients, if you're not paying yourself, if you're, as I said, working your tail to the bone, you're the one for me. If you're, wanting to give it, I don't know, like if you looked at your financials, so it is end of financial year, right? I don't know, like, are you cringing looking at your numbers? Imagine like being able to look at your numbers next year and go, holy, you know what? I can't believe I did this. Like, there are cases in Momentum, like someone doubled her income in the first 90 days. She's on track to do it again. She was struggling to get clients at the start. There was somebody else who, since working with me, she's increased her income by 58%. 58%. She's got a mid-six-figure practice now. But when she started, it was hard and she was struggling, right? She just was missing business foundations, that's all. And then there was some mindset stuff, and then bringing it all into alignment with her purpose and her why and all of that. And so I know there's so much proof that you can turn this around. It doesn't have to be like this. If that is, I don't know, sparking your curiosity, if you're feeling hopeful, go to my website. Go and have a look at the Work With Me section. It's got some information there on Practice Momentum. And you'll see that, yes, there is a way. Yes, you can do it even if you're in full-time study, even if you're working full-time. There are women in Momentum who are doing both. Even if you've been in it for a while and it's not working, you don't have the cash flow. This is created for you, all right? There is a way. So anyway, I just wanted to, let you know that you can have a business where you're charging the right fee. You got to understand what the right fee is. You don't have to hang on to a story that clients can't afford you. Hanging on to that story, you get what you believe, right? We can change that story, but that story needs to align with you. It needs to feel believable and true for you. And that's not going to happen without you having some concrete basis to, put it on. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. If you are interested in Momentum, of course, go and have a look at it. There are applications open now. They close on the 15th of July 2025, which is about 2 weeks. You get your application in if it feels aligned for you. An application is not a commitment. It's just you putting your hand up. And I would love to help you if you think that this is what you need right now. Anyway, my lovelies, I hope that you're going away from this episode now with a better understanding of the fee and what it means, how to set it, how not to set it, and the factors that influence it. And you're going away with some ideas and some awareness so that you can make some shifts if you need to, and or when you're ready. Okay? All right, my lovelies, have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for being part of my world. Bye.
And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorm.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.